Hey there, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement, and welcome to another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday Training, where I take a concept and or strategy, they could be both, that we use in autism fitness programming, break it down, and talk about the realities of using it in your fitness and adapted PE programs. Before I get started, please like, subscribe, and at the end of this, if it has been valuable for you and you think it might be valuable for someone else in your circle or even in your second or third ring of that circle, I don't know, concentric circles, they just kind of go around each other, then please share it with them as well. So in this edition of Tuesday Training, I'm going to be talking about autonomy and choice and how they are essential in our fitness programming for the autism and neurodivergent population. Now, I've done a previous video on independence, and there certainly is some overlap here. This video is going to focus more on how we initiate or how we incorporate autonomy and choice into our fitness programs and why it means so much more than we might think superficially when we get started. So, in our fitness and adapted PE programs, one of the things that we deal with most is going to be motivation or lack thereof. Now, I've done a separate video on motivation as well and demystifying it a little bit because we tend to go with, oh, the athlete is really motivated or they're not motivated at all or they hate exercise or they love exercise, but there's a lot of space in between there as well. So one of the ways that we can counteract or account for the fact that some of our athletes may not have a high level of motivation to start with in our fitness programs is by building in opportunities to be more independent, not completely independent, and I'll talk about that in a couple minutes, and building in choice as well. So the first question that can come up is, what do we use as a reinforcer for our athlete if we're using a secondary reinforcer? We have something that could be naturalistically reinforcing or in and of itself is reinforcing. So let's say, platinum standard here, that the athlete loves doing the exercise. Well, great, then we don't necessarily need a secondary reinforcer, something that we would use in a contingency, for example. And the simplest version of that would be, all right, first do hurdle steps or do a push throw, whatever the exercise is. First do the exercise, and then you can have a break or you can engage in this preferred activity, whatever it is, bouncing on a stability ball, wandering around, doing some sandbell slams if another exercise is preferred. Awesome, very straightforward if-then contingency. We use it all the time. If the exercise is itself reinforcing, the athlete really likes to do it, then we don't need to really build in that secondary reinforcer because it's unnecessary and the athlete is gaining some intrinsic value from performing that exercise. So awesomeness. If that is not the case, or in situations where it's the athlete's first session, so we have session 1 or session 2, and the athlete is still getting accustomed and used to you or me as the coach, the environment, the expectations, the exercises themselves. There are a lot of variables here that are entirely new for our athletes. So the first thing that we can do is give them the opportunity to choose for themselves what they want to do. Now, when I say that, we still need structure around it, because just saying, what do you want to do? Say that to anybody in a gym. If they don't have a long history of physical training, then they're not going to know what to choose. And there's way too much variety to make a really informed decision about what you want to do there. Same thing is true for our athletes, especially considering they may have never have done these exercises before. So we want choice within reason or choice within structure there. The structure is maybe we have 2, at most 3 different exercises that they can choose from. So how this would play out in reality, how it would sound is, hey, Keith, let's use Keith here. I don't have an athlete named Keith, but if I did, it would sound like this. Hey, Keith, do you want to start with hurdle steps first? Do you want to start with overhead band walks? Or do you want to start with walking band pulls? And I might demonstrate each one of these first so that Keith has an accurate visual of what each of these exercises entails. But let's say Keith is nonverbal and he points to the band. I can infer that he wants to start with the band. And I might ask him again, it looks like you want to start with the band, Keith. Do you want to try overhead band walks? And Keith may give me an answer, or He may just stand there and kind of nod, or he may give an emphatic yes. Okay, cool. Let's try overhead band walks. I'm going to go first and show you how to do it, and then you'll try. So that choice factor is a major one, and it does some things that are obvious, and then it does some wonderful things that are not so obvious. And I love talking about those. So the obvious things are that choice gives the athlete an opportunity to be a little bit more autonomous and self-governed, and to pick the thing that is going to seem more preferable or more interesting at the time, especially in those first two sessions. The athlete, and by no way of cognitive capability, but they're unfamiliar with the exercise. So if you're unfamiliar, you can't make as informed a decision about what you want to do as would any neurotypical person as well. Same situation. We just want to utilize it and capitalize on it for the benefit of our athletes' experience in that fitness session. So what we're also doing with by giving them choice is we're giving them a really positive onboarding experience. It's not, hey Keith, great to meet you. Here, do this. Because that's a different situation. And what if Keith is really anxious and he has an aversion to being told what to do? Well, now as a coach, we've put ourselves into a situation where if Keith decides he doesn't want to do that, then we say we're starting to backtrack here, and that's where it gets all kinds of iffy and all kinds of complications can arise here, where we say, oh, well, it looks like you don't want to do it, but just try it. It's really fun. Don't tell somebody that something is really fun. They have to experience it for themselves. And by the way, it's probably not going to be really fun. It might be something that as they feel more confident and capable in it because they get good at it, they like doing. But the fun factor is a weird one in fitness, because we want the athlete to overcome a challenge. It's not really like fun in the moment. All right. We may enjoy it, but it's not, ooh, fun, let's get some balloons and dance around. That's not what it is, nor will it ever be. That's not what it's supposed to be. There's fitness and there's recreation, and those are two different things. Anyway, I digress as I move my glasses around. So that choice factor, as in addition to being a great onboarding tool and giving that athlete a measure of control. So now it's not, hey, do this, or you have to, because we always want to avoid we want to avoid you have to situations for, again, some obvious reasons. Now the athlete has this basic premise of these are the two exercises, and you get to pick which one you want to do first. From a programming perspective, it doesn't really matter physiologically which one they do first. Hurdle step first, great. Hip mobility and locomotion. Overhead band walk first, great. Some shoulder mobility if we need it. Not every athlete does, but if the athlete needs it, and also a little bit of muscular contraction in the shoulders, upper back, working on grip, maintaining trunk stability when you have in an overhead motion. All good stuff. Different exercise, different outcomes, different purposes. But that athlete being engaged because we gave them the opportunity to choose which one they wanted to do first is far better than saying, okay, you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this. And it gives us a great starting point for building a rapport with that athlete as well. So choice may seem, we can use choice, we cannot use choice. Definitely opt for choice, because it gives that athlete an opportunity to step into that session with more confidence and the knowledge that they are part of this process as well. It's not just a one-way communication at them. We want to work with the athlete, not at the athlete. That's a fundamental difference in thinking, and that's really the driving force behind empathetic coaching. It's not about, oh, maybe you can do this and maybe you can do that. It's okay, I want to get your experience involved here, and how are you appreciating and how are you experiencing this particular session right now, so I can be a better coach for you. It's working towards the athlete's capabilities rather than just throwing stuff at them. In the case of medicine balls, literally. Anyhow, so the other things that are not so obvious but also awesome about choice is it takes away a strict, straightforward, we need to get this done in this order, type of situation. So we have the athlete being a part of this, of building this program, and it also allows the athlete the opportunity to communicate, especially if they've decided, and this does come up, to change their mind. Let's say we're demonstrating a hurdle step and the athlete looks over at the band or they grab the band. It's a language opportunity, right? Oh, it looks like you changed your mind. You want to use the band first instead of the hurdle steps. So it gives the athlete an opportunity to switch to something else, especially if they're becoming overwhelmed, particularly in those first few sessions. And the reason I bring up the first few sessions is after a while, the athlete is going to become accustomed to the structure, to the sequence, to the exercises in the session. So choice doesn't need to be as overt. We don't need to start out with, okay, what do you pick here? What do you pick there? What do you pick here? It can be implied over time, as it would with any other athlete. We just have to take these measures up front. We have to consider these measures a lot more up front with our autism and neuroadaptive athletes when we're offering choice. So on the other side of that is the autonomy. Again, it's not a free-for-all. It's not do whatever you want, because that's not a fitness program. That's not going to get us a training effect. That's not going to get us, the 3 or 4 or 5 sets of each strength exercise that our athlete needs to get stronger, to get more stable, to move better. Rather, we have choice within that structure that's going to lead towards that autonomy. So it may be, which exercises do you want to do during your warm-up? Okay, pick 2 or pick 3, and we'll go with those. And then which exercises do you want to do first, and which exercises do you want to include in your power section? And then which exercises do you want to do? Which exercises do you want to include in your strength section? Now, this can be done in the very beginning of the session, or this can be an ongoing process throughout the session, and that really depends on, when we go through our PAC profile, physical, adaptive, and cognitive, that's going to land in the land of cognitive functioning, because an athlete who does well with limited information in the short term versus building out the entire session in the very beginning, they're going to do a lot better with as we go along. So we may start out with that warm-up section, and it's, do you want to do hurdle steps first or walking band pull first? Okay, hurdle steps, and then we go to the walking band pull. Then we do overhead band walk, and then we move to our power. And then once we get to the power section, it's like starting the next chapter in each session. So rather than overwhelming the athlete in the beginning, again, especially, and I know I'm talking about, the first, second, and third session, but this is where it becomes critical to use this type of strategy. Instead of, okay, let me show you the whole thing and everything that you're going to do, building it out in smaller chunks so that the athlete can follow along without having to worry about, exercise, 15 minutes from now or 20 minutes from now, or, 3 exercises or 4 exercises down the line. We're thinking about that. Don't have to. Just giving it information a couple pieces at a time so the athlete is able to focus and attend as well. There's some athletes that you'll have who want the whole program written out in advance, and wonderful, great. There are some athletes who need those smaller pieces of information, one piece at a time, one choice at a time. Cool thing about that also is we can make choices all throughout that session and really engage that athlete. Again, for those of you who are incorporating speech targets as well, great language opportunities here. So which one do you want to pick? Which one do you want to do first and second? So we have we have time-based, we have prepositions, we have, sequencing and order, all of these much more abstract concepts that we can bring into our session and build in these other skills, not at the expense of the fitness session, but in addition to. So we can really enrich this fitness session. Are those the primary goals? No, they're secondary goals, but these are things that we can incorporate as well, which is why language targets are so great when we're building them into our fitness programs as well. Generalization, awesomeness. So to close out, choice is going to be a major factor, not only in those first 1 or 2 or 3 sessions, but overall too. Over time, we can take for granted that the athlete is going to come in and do their structured program, but every once in a while, we do want to change it up not for the sake of variety and changing it up immensely, but saying, okay, we're going to take the, instead of always doing the hurdle step first, now we're going to change it around. And we're going to do an overhead band walk first, and then we're going to do the hurdle step. This also, and I've done some videos on variety within exercises, but what I'll say about variety within reason or variety within structure, sometimes the most variety that an athlete needs is just the same exercises in a different order. So last week we did overhead throws first, and then we did push throws and scoop throws. Next week, we're going to do push throws first, and then scoop throws, and then overhead throws. So it's still giving the athlete practice and the opportunity to get better and better with those fundamental exercises, but changing up the order a little bit so that it's not the same thing every time. And with some of our population, we know that the same thing every time is gold. That's exactly what we want, because they flourish and thrive in that type of situation. Again, great. So we're really working towards the needs and the way that our athletes enjoy carrying out their particular structure in their session, but we're building in that choice so the athlete has a greater sense of control in their program. And even if we're dealing with the same exercises, we can do a slightly different order of those exercises so the athlete can have that same menu, but we put things in a little bit differently. So it works from a physical perspective. The athlete is still getting the training at the level that they are currently at, so that we're increasing strength, stability, and motor planning. From an adaptive perspective, it's motivating because the athlete knows what the expectation is. So now we can build in a higher rate of reinforcement, and they feel more capable with those exercises. That's going to elevate, confidence is going to look very different for every single athlete. So we can't make the huge assumption, oh, every athlete is super confident. No, but there's going to be some measure of autonomy, which suggests that there's confidence in being able to do each exercise more and more independently. And then from a cognitive perspective, the athlete understands the expectation because it's the same exercises, and they know, here's the other thing, you have that contingency. They know that if they choose this particular exercise, they're going to be doing, guess what? This particular exercise. So choice is huge. It seems small, and it could seem like something, well, maybe we'll give them the opportunity to pick what they want to do, and maybe we'll just do it. Opt for giving that athlete the choice, because proactively, well, all the things that I spoke about in terms of choice gives that athlete an opportunity to own their program. And then it also avoids, so we are mitigating having to clean up our own mess when we say, oh, you have to do. We never want to be in a have to situation. So if we're saying, oh, you have to do this exercise, or even the more benign or seemingly innocuous, hey, do you want to try this exercise? Because what happens when the answer is no? Maybe try it anyway. That never sounds good. So giving choice is a great way to circumvent or get around have to conversations with our athletes. And that is something that you can apply to almost any athlete in any environment, whether you're working out of a gym, a clinic, a classroom, even in the home. So that is a little bit on autonomy and choice and how we implement it in our programs. If you want to learn more about autonomy and choice within the framework of fitness and adapted PE programs, it's probably time for you to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro. You can learn more in the link below. I'm Eric Chessen, founder of Autism Fitness, leading the movement for movement. Please do not forget to like, to subscribe, and to even share this video with someone whom it might benefit. Thank you for watching Autism Fitness Tuesday Training. And hey, let's light up those comments. If there's a question that you have about autonomy and choice, or if there's a general question that you have about autism fitness programming or how it applies to your life skill athletes, or third, if there's a topic that you'd like me to cover in a future video, then definitely leave it in the comments below. Greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.